Hello guys, welcome back again to another tutorial. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how to draft, cut and sew this beautiful flare dress with short sleeve. If this sounds like something you are interested in, make sure you watch this video to the very end so you don't miss out on any detail or explanation. And if you are coming across this channel for the first time, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future uploads. I will be using this beautiful crepe fabric for this tutorial. What I'm having here is 2 yards. The length of this fabric is by 60. That's why it's enough for the dress. I've used this fabric to make a dress before, so this is the remaining one, and I was asked to make another dress with it, which is what you just watched at the beginning of the video. So now I'm just going to take this fabric out and cut out the portion that I will be needing to draft my front piece. To cut out the portion that you will be needing for your front piece, the first thing you need to do is to fold your fabric into two, just as I have done. As you can see, this fabric is already folded into two. Now the measurement you'll be needing to cut it out is your biggest body measurement. For a dress, the biggest body measurement here is the hip. Now the hip measurement I am working with is 50. You'll simply divide the 50 by 4. Whatever you have, you're going to measure it on your fabric, then you add your necessary sewing allowance. After that, go ahead and measure the length of the dress. Now for this dress, the dress length before the gathers is 33 inches. So I measured the 33 inches, I roll it out, then I went on to use my scissors to cut it out. So that is how I cut out the portion that I'll be needing for my front piece. Okay, so go ahead and use your own body measurements to cut out the portion that you will be needing for the front. After cutting out the portion that we'll be needing for the front piece, I just went on to remove the excess fabric. Now let's draft. Now on this top right here, I'm going to roll an horizontal line, and this line is going to serve as the shoulder line. I'm rolling this much because I want to remove the fabric border. So go ahead and roll a line that will serve as the shoulder line or starting line. Now let's mark our neckline measurements. On the shoulder line, the neck width I am working with is 4.5 inches. I marked that. Then to mark the shoulder depth, from the shoulder line I came down by another 4.5 inches and I marked that. Now I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect these 2 points together to create a round neckline. After creating the neckline, the next step is to mark our shoulder measurement. So on the starting line, I went on to mark half of the shoulder measurement I am working with. The shoulder is 18, divided by 2 is 9 inches. So I mark 9 inches on the shoulder line. Now on this point, I mark half of the shoulder measurement. I'm going to come down by 10 inches for the armhole line. To get the armhole line measurement, you simply divide your bust by 6 plus 1.5. Whatever you have, that is your armhole line measurement. Go ahead, connect the 2 points together on a straight line. This straight line is the armhole line, and you will also extend this line horizontally like this. Now this horizontal line is going to serve as the chest line. Now to slanten the shoulder, you know that our shoulder is not straight. On the armhole line, I came down by 1 inch and I make a mark. Now I'm going to connect this point to the neck width like this, and that's how we slanten the shoulder. Now to create the armhole curve, I'm going to measure what I have left on the armhole line. You are not going to place your measuring tape at the beginning of the armhole line. No, you're going to place it at where you slanten the shoulder, that point to slanten your shoulder. Measure what you have left, divide it by 2 by bending your tape roll like this, then mark the midpoint. On that midpoint, you will come in by 1/2 inch and you will make a mark. Then here on the chest line, you will simply divide your bust circumference measurement by 4 and mark. The round bust measurement I am working with is 50, divided by 4 is 12.5, so I mark the 12.5 on the chest line. Now I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect these 3 points together to create the armhole curve. So go ahead and create your own armhole curve using your own measurements. Now let's mark all the vertical points. You will simply place your measuring tape on the starting line or shoulder line like this. Then I came down by 14 inches for the bust point length. From the shoulder to the waist measurement is 22 inches. I mark that. Then from the shoulder to the hip line is 29 inches. I I marked that as well. Then the length of the dress before the gathers is 33 inches. I marked that. Now I'm going to use my ruler to connect all these points on a horizontal line. So go ahead and do the same thing. Mark all your vertical points, and when you are done, use a ruler to connect all the points you've marked on a horizontal line. But if you don't have a ruler, you can use your free hand to connect the points horizontally. Now let's mark all the body measurements. So here on the bust point, you simply divide your bust circumference measurement by 4 and mark it. Now the bust circumference measurement I am working with is 50 divided by 4 is 12.5. then I marked that on the bust line. Then I added 2 inches extra for sewing allowance. I didn't add sewing allowance on the chest line, so I just went on to add the 2 inches sewing allowance. Then here on the waistline, you are simply going to do the same thing. You simply mark quarter of your waist circumference measurement. The waist measurement I am working with is 40 divided by 4 is 10. I marked that on the waistline. Then I added 2 inches extra for sewing allowance. Then here on the hip line, you are simply going to do the same thing. You simply divide your hip circumference measurement by 4, mark it on the hip line, then you add your 2 inches sewing allowance. The hip measurement I am working with is 50 divided by 4 is 12.5. I marked that on the hip line, then I added 2 inches extra for sewing allowance. Now here at the length of the dress, you are simply going to mark what you have on the hip line. I have 12.5 on the hip line. I marked that, then I added 4 extra inches for ease. After marking all the body measurements, I'm just going to connect all the points together to create the body shape. After connecting all the points together, we are just going to cut it out. So guys, this is what I have after I was done cutting out the front piece. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to fold another piece of fabric that we will use to cut out the back piece. This is the piece that we'll be using to cut out the back piece, and as you can see, the fabric is already folded into 2. Now the next thing is to bring your front piece and place it on the back piece just the way you see me doing. Make sure you take your time to arrange the both pieces together properly. For the back, there will be no zipper or any joining at the back. We're just going to create a button at the back so that the owner can easily wear it and pull it off. So it's only button that is going to be on the neckline at the back. Okay, now for the back neck depth, I'll be working with a neck depth of 2 inches. So from the shoulder line, I came down by 2 inches and I make a mark. After that, I use my chalk to connect the point to the neck width. The neck width for the back remained 4.5 inches, so I use my chalk to connect the 2 points together. After that, I went on to cut it out, and I will also be trimming out the side. The front and the back piece are the same. The only difference is the neckline. Now the front and the back piece are ready. I'm just going to remove the front piece so we can work on the back neckline for the button. To work on the button part, from the neckline, I'm just going to come down by 4.5 inches and I'll make a mark. After that, I will use my scissors to cut from the neckline to this point. I mark 4.5 inches. Now we have opened up the neckline. This will be easier to wear the dress and pull it off whenever. So now I'm going to place this neckline on a piece of fabric to cut out a facing for it. So guys, I am done cutting the facing that we'll be using to turn the back neckline. Now the next thing is to place this facing on the back neckline like this. But before we do that, we need to put a loop, and I have this pieces of fabric that I'll be using to create the loop. The width of this piece is 1 inch, while the length, it doesn't really matter because you just need small of it to pass your button in it. To sew this rope, you're just going to fold in the edges like this, and when you're done folding in the edges, you're going to fold it again into another two, then you're going to make a stitch on it. Okay, now let me take this over to the sewing machine and make a stitch. And this is what I have after I was done sewing it, so you can see how it looks. Now to get the loop, I don't really need much, so I'll just fold it in just a little that I'll be needing, then cut out the remaining excess out. Now go ahead and place your loop on your back neckline, that is around this V-neck area. You can use office pin to hold it down so that it doesn't move before you will now place your facing on it. Arrange it properly. After that, we are going to take this over to the sewing machine and we are going to stitch this just the way you see me directing. Then as for the front neckline, I will be using my bias strip to pipe the neckline. We are not using facing for this one, it's just bias strip. I'm sure you already know how to pipe your neckline using bias. Just go and do it the way you know how to do it. So let me go over to the sewing machine and do that. So guys, this is what I have after I was done piping the front neckline. You can see how neat this looks. Let me keep the front piece aside, and this is the back pieces. I've already gone to sew the facing on the back neckline. I hope you can see how the stitch went. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use my scissors to notch around this neckline so that when we turn this over to the right side, the neckline is going to sit properly. So just notch this V point here on the neckline, notch it properly. Okay, then go ahead and notch the remaining parts just the way you see me doing. After notching, you're just going to turn this over to the right side, and this is what it looks like on the right side. You can see the lobe and the neckline is properly turned. Now you can take this over to your ironing table and give it a very good press. For me, there is no light right now. I will do that when I am done making the dress and when the light is restored. So let's continue. The next thing you're going to be working on is joining the shoulder. So I'm going to place my back piece on the table like this. Then I will bring my front piece and place it on my back piece, right side facing each other. Now you're going to place the front shoulder on the back shoulder like this. Make sure that you arrange it properly. Then you're going to use this facing of the back piece to cover up for the front. Now when we take this over to the sewing machine and stitch, we are going to have a very neat finishing. All the rough edges is going to be hidden inside. You are going to repeat the same process on the other shoulder. Place your front shoulder on the back shoulder like this. Arrange it properly. Then use the facing of the back shoulder to cover up for the front. Now let me take this over to the sewing machine and stitch this. This is what I have after I was done stitching the shoulders together. Now let me turn this over to the right face. This is what I have it looking like after turning it over to the right face. You can see that both the right face and the wrong face have a very clean, neat finishing. That is how it should be. I will turn the second shoulder as well. Now the next thing we are going to be working on is the sleeve. To work on the sleeve, I will simply arrange the shoulder line and the armhole properly. Now you're going to take your measuring tape and you're going to measure around the armhole line. And when I did this, I had 14 inches. So I'm going to use this measurement to cut the sleeve. You can go ahead and measure around the second armhole just to be sure that the both armhole measurements are the same. So I just went on to measure the second armhole, and when I measured this all the way around, I had the same 14 inches. That means that the both armhole measurements are the same. Now I'm going to be using this armhole measurement to cut out the sleeve. So this is the pieces of fabric that I'll be using to cut out the sleeve, and what I'm going to do next is to simply fold these pieces into two, just like this. After folding this into two, the next thing is to use my chalk to create the sleeve armhole like this. If you don't know how to draft a sleeve pattern, I have a detailed tutorial that will guide you on how to draft a sleeve pattern. So I'm going to drop the video link on end screen and also in the description box. Now for the end screen, you're going to see the video link at the end of this video. So make sure you click on it or go to the description box and click on it to watch the full video. After drafting the armhole curve, you're just going to use a measuring tape to measure it all the way around, just to make sure we have the 14 inches we are working with. And when I measured this all the way around, I have the 14 inches, but I added extra 1 inch just in case. Now the next thing we are going to do is to measure the sleeve length. So I'm just going to place the measuring tape on the sleeve cap, this top edge here. Then I came down by 8 inches and I marked that. Then I added extra 1 inch for sewing allowance. Now on this sleeve length, you're going to mark half of your round sleeve measurement. Half of the round sleeve measurement I am working with is 10 inches. I marked that, then I added 2 extra inch for sewing allowance. I didn't connect the length of my sleeve on a horizontal line, so now I'm just going to use my ruler to connect this point on a horizontal line so that I will be able to connect the 2 points to create the sleeve. Now go ahead and connect the 2 points together to create the sleeve, and that's basically it. Now we're just going to cut this out. So guys, this is what our sleeve look like. Now I'm going to place this sleeve on another pieces and I will cut the second piece out. And when I'm done cutting out the second piece, I will just go ahead and fold the hem of this sleeve. This is what I have after I was done hemming the length of the sleeve. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to fold the sleeve into two, then I will notch the midpoint. And I will also do the same thing to the second sleeve as well. I'll fold the sleeve into two like this, then I will notch the midpoint. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to fix this sleeve on the dress. I'm just going to arrange my dress armhole like this, then pick the sleeve. This notch point on the sleeve, I'm going to place it on the shoulder joining. Make sure the right side of the sleeve is facing the right side of the dress. And after placing the sleeve this way, go ahead and use your office pin to hold it together. You can actually take this over to the sewing machine and sew directly, but if you are not too sure, or if you want to make sure that the sleeve and the dress armhole matches very well, then you go ahead and use your office pin to pin it together. Now I'm just going to head over to my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch this just the way you see me directing. And I will also do the same thing to the second sleeve as well. This is what I have after I was done joining the sleeve to the dress. Now I'm going to keep this aside while we work on the ruffle. These are the pieces that I'll be using to create the ruffles. The width I am having here is 11 inches. The actual length I'm working with is 10 inches, but I added extra 1 inch for hemming. While for the length, when I measured this all the way around, I had 19 inches, that is 2.5 yards, and I have two of the pieces here. Now I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine. First of all, I am going to hem the length of the pieces, and after that, on this other edge right here, I'm going to run a gathered stitch. So let me go and do this right away. This is what I have after I was done hemming the length of both pieces, and I've also gone ahead to run a gathered stitch on this other edge. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to make the gathers. So I'll simply pick one of the rope, then I will keep pulling to form the gathers. And when I'm done with these pieces, I'm going to do the same thing to the other pieces as well. So this is what I have after I was done creating the gathers. Now the next thing we are going to do is to fix these gathers on the dress. On the dress, I'm just going to place the gather on the length of the dress. Now you can go ahead and use your office pin to hold it together before you take it over to the sewing machine and sew. And while you are arranging this on the length of the dress, if you discover that the gathers is way too much, you can go ahead and adjust so that it fits what we are having on the length perfectly. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to run a stitch all the way. This is what I have after I was done joining the gathers to the dress. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to arrange the both pieces together, right side facing each other, so that you can take the body measurement. You're going to take your time to arrange the both pieces together properly. Make sure that the both edges are equal and all of that. After arranging the side, you can now take this over to the sewing machine and sew from the sleeve all the way down to the length of the dress using the sewing allowance that you left. So for me, I left 2 inches sewing allowance, or better still, you can go ahead and take your body measurement. So let me just take my body measurement for the sake of my beginners. So on the bust point here, the bust measurement I am working with is 50. So I'm going to divide the 50 by 2, and 50 divided by 2 is 25. So I mark that on both sides. Okay, then here on the waistline, I'm going to do the same thing as well. I am working with a waist measurement of 40 inches, and 40 divided by 2 is 20. So here on the waistline, I measured 20 inches on both sides and I marked that. Then on the hip line, I did the same thing as well. I simply divide the hip measurement I am working with by 2 and I mark it. The hip measurement I am working with is 50. 50 divided by 2 is 25. So I mark the 25 on both sides on the hip line. Now to the gathered parts, you can work with the measurement of 1 inch on both sides. You don't need to do too much here because the gathered part is supposed to be free. Now I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to be stitching from the sleeve all the way down to the length of the dress. So let me go and do this and bring it. This is what I have after I was done joining the side, and when I was done with that, I took this to the market to weave. Now let me turn this over to the right side so that you see what we have. And this is what we have on the right side. You can see how neat this dress is. Now the next thing we are going to be working on is to fix the button. I have my button here and also my needle and thread that I'll be using to tack this button on this side. So go ahead, grab your needle and thread and tack your button on the dress. Make sure you tack your button multiple times so that the button stay firm, and when you are done, this is how strong it should be. So once you've gotten the firmness that you need, the next thing you're going to do is to backstitch the thread. So go ahead and tie your thread at the back. Make sure you do it a couple of times so it doesn't lose easily. And when you're done with that, you're going to use your scissors to cut the remaining thread, and that's pretty much about it. This is what the dress actually look like. So the next thing I'm going to do is to give this dress a thorough ironing. Since I started making this dress, I have no iron it because there is no light, so I am going to give this dress a thorough ironing. And that's pretty much about it. If you have watched this video to this point, do well by giving this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and if you have any question, any feedback, or any style suggestion you will want us to recreate, let me know in the comment section. I respond to comments, so I will definitely respond to yours. For now, bye. I will see you all in my next video.